Right, dude. But it's good to see you. It's been a while since we connected, but I know we had a lot of fun the last time that we actually sat down together. You are, as I was saying off camera, you're a person that I've been watching from afar for a while now, and it's been really awesome to see your journey and look at you and see how many people that you're influencing, businesses you're helping create, brands you're helping bring to fruition. So. I just want to turn it over to you so I don't miss anything really important, but tell us who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive in from there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man, and glad to be chatting here today. Adam McChesney, born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. Live here with my wife Delaney and our son Murphy, who's about 19, going on 20 months old. Right now, I'm the CEO and founder of Builders of Authority. So, Builders of Authority started back in November of 2023. While I was still a partner at another digital marketing agency. And the whole premise behind it was I have used my personal brand over the last now 5 years to grow and scale multiple businesses, not just digital marketing agencies, but service-based businesses as well. And so I wanted to teach that, right? I wanted to share kind of the tips, the strategies, the stuff behind the scenes, give the blueprint, if you will, to entrepreneurs, marketers, business owners, coaches, and consultants. It doesn't really matter what the industry is. I believe everybody can leverage personal branding.
Mhm.
So we started that in November of 2023. Started with one-to-one coaching and started group coaching outside of that we still do today with 2 calls a week and accountability stuff and things like that. And then throughout 2024, I actually went through an exit in my partnership that I had. Long story short, wasn't able to do anything digital marketing related for about 6 months. So kind of stood on my hands or sat on my hands and started just thinking about like what was that next thing as we're building this community, doing one-to-one coaching, et cetera. And I said, you know what? I got out of the agency and originally thought that I didn't want to ever be in a digital marketing agency
Mhm.
again. Like I
Mhm.
was so burnt out. I was, whatever. But over the course of time, the exit didn't go plan super, super well just because of some turmoil that I had to deal with.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I can do this. I was like, I want to do this. And people are like waiting at my doorstep to pay me for this.
That's awesome.
And so I said, you know what? It would be a disservice to myself, to these potential clients, and everybody else that kind of comes into the fruition of that scenario. So we relaunched the digital marketing agency in October of last year in 2024. We're sitting here right now in the middle of April doing 6 figures plus month, 6 figures plus a month in recurring revenue.
Amazing.
We have now 12 team members, and it's just been absolutely incredible, man. So we grew and scale our last agency, then became a partner of the larger conglomerate that it was. And so I've seen it on a lot of different ends, right? Of like being the CEO. I ran my own agency before. I was the CEO of the auto glass company that I owned for about a year and a half, right?
Yep.
And so, but this is like the first time that I'm actually dealing with like CEO type things that I don't have somebody to like fall back on.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of weird. But that's long story short, that's where we're at.
Dude, I love that. I think it's so cool, and I already didn't know some of that. I've seen you obviously as you've been posting various things like the auto glass venture, but it's been really cool because I think one of at least the storylines that I've really picked up on is your responsibility. So it's interesting for you to share, like, now I'm really doing CEO stuff, right? And that's just such
Mhm.
a different beast than being in, and running some marketing campaigns for some clients. Now you're managing, you're strategizing, you're developing, you've got to bear, a lot more of that responsibility. So I'm sure that's been a pretty cool adventure for you, but also a little bit scary.
And you know what? It's kind of one of those things where it's like what I always asked for. But then now that you get what you asked for, people say, hey, once you reach X level, right?
Yeah.
When you get there, right, you're like, oh my gosh, I thought everything was going to be figured out. I thought I was going to be making the
Yeah.
money that I want. I thought everything was going to be perfect, right? And so I think, and doing it so quickly, right? Like we grew in 6 months, what took me 25 months to do the time before.
Yeah.
So all of what I would really say is all of my weaknesses
Hmm.
and my areas of opportunity or whatever you want to call it
Hmm.
are coming out and have came out over the last 6 months as a CEO.
That's
And
amazing.
that's a really tough thing to like see on the forefront, be on the front line with your team, your clients, whatever, right? Because there are things that I'm like, man, if I could go back and do that differently, like every single day, like even this morning, I'm like, man, I should have done this differently, whatever. But I think it's an evolution that in order to get to like that next level, right, you have to go, sorry, you have to go through that
Yeah.
in order to actually reach that next level.
Yeah.
And so often, right, like the area of comfortability or wherever it is like, I'm just going to go play safe. I'm not playing safe like on an everyday basis. And
Mhm.
that part is super uncomfortable for me.
It's uncomfortable for everybody. Listen,
Yeah.
I am really happy you said that. I joke with my wife all the time. It's like, what I've been able to do with Maison Blue, my hemp beverage company, it's taken us 3 years. I tell her, like, if I could go back to square one, I could get us to the same position in probably 6 months, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know, and you can't teach some of this stuff, right? You have to end
Mhm.
up going through the experience. You have to build the relationships. You have to take those hard knocks. You have to understand what it's like to operate in a specific category or industry. It's not just, hey, I'm going to watch this video or I'm going to set up this one process and then everybody's going to come, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you had a really good post this morning that I commented on where you're like marketing is just trying things to see what sticks. And for a business owner, that can be really challenging, right? It can
Yeah.
be, hey, we're going to try this out, but there's no guarantees, right?
Mhm.
Well, you want a guarantee. I'm spending this money, I'm putting all this effort and this time and these resources into this, this thing. I want this outcome. And unfortunately, that's just a lot of business. That's a lot of relationships too.
Yeah. Well, I think so often, right? People confuse marketing or say like they confuse a service, right, with a completed widget.
Hmm.
So like I deal a lot with contractors and home service businesses and the one thing I hear all the time, well Adam, if you know, if somebody paid me to put a roof on their house and I didn't put a roof on their house, I wouldn't be able to collect money. I'm like, yeah, of course, right? But like we're providing a service
Yeah.
that also has to deal with algorithms, that also has to deal with things that we can't control. All we can do is run the play
Yeah.
to the best of our ability to the highest level that we possibly can.
Yeah.
And should that not work, right? Should that not work, like I can't say we didn't do our job. I just can say that we like the results may have not happened as quickly as we thought. And so I think a lot of the perception around what marketing is or what people believe to be marketing is
Hmm.
versus what they're comparing it to, right?
Hmm.
They're comparing it to a completed project or buying a product. Those are two completely different things. So marketing needs to be looked at on the surface level for what it actually is,
Yeah.
not what you're comparing marketing to versus X, Y, and Z.
100%. Absolutely. Well, I want to actually step back because as you were talking about kind of your journey and where you are today, I love the growth that you've had, where you're at. You're now kind of back in the marketing, but you also have this Builders of Authority, this personal brand and development organization as well. And I've seen this play out, and I know you've been through the coaching, but you mentioned, you saw importance in personal brand. And I want to pull on that thread a little bit. I'd love to hear why, like one, why that became a thing for you. Why did that become a passion for you? And then two, how you saw that impacting other people, because obviously a lot of us look on social media or movies or TV or whatever it is, and we see these types of influencers, but not all of them end up being or having a personal brand organically. Some of them are crafted. And so why is that? Why is personal brand a big thing for you? And where does that lead people in their own personal lives?
Yeah, I think I saw firsthand the benefit and the pros as well as some of the cons of what it can do to grow a business.
Hmm.
Right. So, like, if I look back to August 2020 when I started my personal branding journey and I looked at where I grew in the first year, in the first 2 years, less than 5 years from where we're at right now,
Hmm.
I'm like, hey, it would have been almost impossible to do that same stuff as a digital marketer with paid advertising, with going and doing a bunch of emails, with going and bunching and doing a bunch of networking events, like all other options, right, that I could have done in lieu of personal branding. But a lot of those things are like temporary in nature or rely on somebody else, right?
Hmm.
Whereas a personal brand for me, yes, it's Adam's Facebook. Yes, it's my YouTube channel. Yes, it's my podcast. Yes, it's me being a guest on your podcast. I mean, there's so many different things. And the story played out when I left that last agency, right? Everybody that was inside of the agency was like, Adam, like, you are the identity of Adam is tied with the name of this agency. I'm like, only for this short little period that we were together. And once people find out, because I couldn't really tell people for like 6 months, once people find out, I said, I'm going to go build this thing quicker, faster, and stronger and more efficiently than what you guys are doing. Just watch me.
Yeah.
Because like you told me it wasn't going to be possible, but you said my personal brand really wasn't that important. And I proved it wrong. Right. So I've seen the full evolution
Mm.
of it. And the reason why I believe it's so important is because I feel like if more people showed up on social media, I believe that they would get more fulfillment out of life. And what I mean by that is like I use like one of the posts that I wrote this morning, right? I use it as an outlet to also teach and reteach myself.
Mm.
So it's like I extract a lesson, I make a post about it, I share this, and then all of a sudden I get feedback from that post, or I go back in and as I'm writing the post, I'm like, you know what? That was the lesson in this hiccup, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so I think it kind of came to the forefront where it was like, hey, more people need to know about this. And not that people don't know what a personal brand is. Like I think a lot of people do, but I think a lot of people want to have instant, like, I'm going to go make this post. I'm going to go buy this ad. I'm going to go do this thing and I'm going to get something back in return, or I'm just going to go do it under the business brand.
Mm-hmm.
When in all reality, right, my exit from that last agency is a perfect thing. If all I did was build that agency's brand, even though I was a partner, even though I was a franchisee, and I didn't have a brand separately from that, well, then when I had to go restart, I was going to be starting over from a new brand of zero.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a lot of momentum that you can have based on doing that.
Yeah, and that's really smart. I haven't heard anybody articulate how you just shared kind of that feedback loop, if you will. And I know, especially some of the groups that we are both a part of, for entrepreneurs, the personal brand thing has become really big, posting so much on social media. And I think people just kind of do it to do it. I like your approach of saying, hey, I'm going to take this learning, I'm going to share it, I'm going to get feedback, and then I'm going to learn from the feedback. And it just really, it's a nice cycle because number one, it helps refine the message. Two, it creates a lot of trust with people. I think that's the
Mm.
one thing that is really surprising for me. When I'm not a big poster, right? I don't have a personal brand, but when I post now, I'm always impressed by the number of people that will reach out that I haven't talked to in, 5, 10 years or whatever. And all of a sudden it becomes a conversation and they're back into your life in a certain extent. But I like that rapport, that trust, because people want to live life with somebody that they trust and they respect and they admire. And that doesn't mean you have to be best friends and, sit down once a week, but it does mean they have to know you personally, have to understand how you think. And I think a lot of that can go into things like a personal brand, correct?
Yes, exactly. And you broke it down like know, like, and trust, right? And at the forefront of everything that I believe business is done or not done on is either there's no like and trust that's there or there's not.
Hmm.
And for the people that I've signed up where there's been the no like and trust, not only do they typically become your best clients, but they stay longer, pay you more money, and they get more out of it.
Hmm.
Whereas if they don't know, like, or trust you, it's a lot harder to not just get them in your ecosystem begin with, but they're not as loyal. They're usually looking for, like, a lot of times, hey, I want the cheapest possible thing, right? And so it becomes, a little bit chaotic. And so I think holistically, right, that your personal brand or lack thereof will either unlock or hold you back from the truest potential that you can have in growing you as the entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And so it will, in the intermediary, grow your business, right? The thing that you're working on right now or things that you're working on right now.
Hmm.
But I've had so many opportunities, whether it's to speak, be an investor in companies, get equity in companies for my experience, just opportunities that, again, if I didn't share my story, I like guaranteed would have not got those
Yeah.
opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. How does personal brand, so a lot of our audience, right? Probably half have their own businesses, they're entrepreneurs, and then the other half are people that are entrepreneurs. They're looking for growth, they're developing their own personal relationships. They might work for somebody like you, or they might work for a bigger corporate environment. How does personal brand work with those types of people? Like, why is it important in those environments? How can they build their own personal relationships, not necessarily do it for marketing and awareness and building a business, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, I think the people, right, that build personal brands as entrepreneurs or employees of organizations are that much more valuable to the existing company as well as any future opportunities, but that much more valuable to themselves.
Mm,
So if you have a personal brand, whether that's like, a lot of salespeople, right? I've trained a lot of salespeople on personal branding. So sometimes that might be companies investing into their sales team to go build out personal brands or invest in social media marketing for each individual sales rep. Or it's just like, hey, Adam is at X, Y, and Z company. Like, we now want to do business because we know Adam's inside of that organization. Those are powerful, powerful things, and
mhm,
they're leverage tools.
mhm.
So, like, you're an employee with a massive personal brand, and if you're a sales rep and you can say, "Hey, I obviously attributed to this," it's a lot easier on paper to say, "Okay, Adam brought in this. We can afford to pay him this because if we lose this, right, we know it's probably going to get lost in some aspect because Adam leaves."
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, if you're somebody behind the scenes, right, you're not necessarily sales or customer facing or whatever it might be, right? Your personal brand still matters. It's just harder to quantify. But when you go and potentially try to get that next job, like people will pay, the
Mm,
right people will pay for not just your experience
mhm.
or your expertise, but the brand that's associated with having you inside of the organization.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's fantastic. And my wife is a perfect example of this. When she gets into an organization, she actually talks a lot about her own personal brand. She'll go join Tiger teams. She'll reach out to people up and down the hierarchy and say, "Hey, you're in this department over here, but I want to get to know you. Want to know how I can support you, or how our departments can kind of work together." But I think a lot of that comes from skill sets built over time, right? Some of that is sales, some of that is personal branding. When you start working with people on a personal brand, what tends to be their biggest barrier? Is it personality? Is it just the mental roadblocks? Is it, hey, I'm starting from nothing and I don't even know what direction to go? Like, typically, what do you see?
I think the biggest thing is typically like excuses and fear. So, and fear obviously can be an excuse, but like excuses of I don't have time, I need something to work right now, I don't even know what to post about. Like all of those are excuses that, valid in one way or another, if you will, as to why people never get started. But I also believe, right, is that a lot of people fear it going well and not going well as to why they won't start.
Hmm.
And so like, and this is an evolution that I've had to deal with is right now there are more people than ever before that know the name Adam McChesney and know the Builders of Authority. And that's an
Hmm.
incredible freaking thing.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things where I have always been the person, whether it was like my growing up, my whatever you want to call it, value system, whatever, where I was like, oh my gosh, I really didn't realize how much I care and wanted everybody to like me. Right. And so I'm like, man, I'm worried about what this person thinks about me. Or if I say the wrong thing, whatever, and go and do this. And so I think that is a root cause of why people don't do it, but it's actually only going to get worse in terms of the potential amount that people could be doing that. And so
Hmm.
that fear actually, if you overcome it, likely is going to come back at some point. And so I think people get started and then also will stop because they're like, "Oh my gosh, there's too much spotlight on me.
Yeah.
There's people talking about me saying I'm posting here and I'm posting that." And so like weeding out whether it's friends or family or just people that you have no idea these keyboard warriors on the internet, like those things will happen,
Yeah.
right? They just
Yeah.
will.
Yeah. Yeah, whether you're big or small, right? And I really want to pull on this thread because that's so important. And I have my own experiences, but I'd love yours for you to just kind of share openly as you were kind of facing those same battles, right? You didn't always start out posting this amount. I'm sure, got to a point where you're like, I don't even know what to post, so I'm just going to start posting. Obviously, as a business owner and a leader, you've had to develop the courage and just the expectation of, I don't know, we're just going to go, right? I think at
Mhm.
some point, that's just who you are. That's who a lot of business leaders are. But once you get beyond that and it becomes that, hey, I have to be consistent. I'm uncomfortable in this space. What was that mental transformation like for you? What kinds of things did you have to digest when it's like, because you're also a very nice guy, right? You also
Mhm.
have a big heart and you have a lot of empathy and you do want people to like you. I do too. Like, I think everybody does. But at some point, there has to be a wall where you say, well, I don't really care what this person says over here because they are a keyboard warrior. It's annoying, but I also need to like move on. So, did you build up any mental roadblocks? What was that mental transformation like to you?
I think for me, it's just going down to knowing at the end of the day, like who I am, right?
Hmm.
And so this has been tough from the personal aspect of friends and family to clients or ex-clients to people that are in my networks and community, as well as to, people that I have no idea who they are, right?
Yeah.
I for so long and still have caught myself in this even recently, have tried to like be perfect in certain instances, even though one, I know that I'm not perfect, and two, I didn't even realize that I was trying to actually be perfect. But then I take a step back and say, oh, wow, like
Yeah.
that's massive, right? So I think it's healthy, right, to actually have all of those things
Yeah.
to where when people are talking about you, whether it be like positively or in the gray area or maybe negatively, right? Or things do come up where you're like, wow, like, okay, this comment like sucks. And somebody shared my post and said this guy's an idiot or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. I think it's normal. And I try to, in those instances, think about all of the people that are way, way ahead of me.
Hmm.
And so I think where a lot of people go wrong is they'll try to go back and they'll be like, well, where was I at last month? And where is there were all these other people? Like I'm comparing myself to everybody that's behind me or alongside me, and they're not getting the same. Hey, like you want to go and you want to just go to anybody on YouTube that has a ton of freaking followers and subscribers. Same thing on Facebook. Like you will see more hate than you will see any positive stuff.
Yeah.
And so you almost have to like do like a reframe of saying like, hey, look at where they're at,
Yeah.
right? And look what they have to deal with in order to do that. Now, would I love to have that? Probably not in a lot of instances, but like it's healthy, it's normal. And at some point we just have to be okay with that.
Hmm. I like that response, and I think. I was listening to, I think it was Ed Milet maybe 6 months or so ago, but he had a line in there that really stuck with me. And I actually put this on repeat because, as you're getting into that uncomfortable zone and you're getting a lot of hate, you said something really important, which is like, I just know who I am, right? I'm not malicious. I'm a nice guy. I got a big heart, but also like I'm here to win. I'm competitive. I've got a business. We're going to grow. One of the things that I took away from Ed's podcast is he said, are you going to let these people that you don't even know take basically money off of your plate or, out of your bank account? And that's really what it is, right? If you're listening to somebody who's typing a couple of letters on a keyboard, but that, three posts every single day for a month might get you an extra 10K in revenue, might build a new partnership, might, get you in front of the next team member, whatever it is, right? Are you going to let that comment stop you, or are you going to push through? And I think that's something that I always try to keep in mind because it seems obvious, but in the moment when you're feeling that emotion of like, ooh, people are coming after me, I feel this hate or resentment, you also have to be like, well, but is that really worth what it's stopping me from getting to?
Yeah. Well, exactly, right? Like I had a situation recently where like one of our highest paying clients, right? Like literally our second highest paying client, and it was like 2 months in, they hire a fractional CMO, and anytime I've ever had to deal with a fractional CMO, it's like, okay, they're gonna come in and they are absolutely gonna just like start cutting everything and try to like do it all themselves, right?
Yeah.
It's like the fractional CMO playbook. And so, like it was just like one of those things where I was like, okay, is it this system, right? Like whether it was me or you or freaking any other marketing agency out there, is it the system that this play is going to run, or is it me
Hmm.
in my company?
Hmm.
And like, sure as crap, like freaking 4 weeks in, it's like, hey, you're only doing two of the three services now. We're probably going to take back one of the other ones. Like
Yeah.
we already like we don't have a replacement for you over here. Like we need you to continue doing this. And like the frustration and the angst and the all the things for like a straight week, because I'm like, I take those things personally, even though it's personal and it's business. But then I had to realize, like, oh, This was just this dude's game plan.
Yeah.
Like I was just the chess piece in there, and I have to like start to disconnect and say, okay, like that would have happened regardless of who it was.
Yeah.
We could have done everything under the sun to make it work, and it still was going to go in the other direction. Like I gotta detach emotionally from the situation.
Hmm.
And even though it's my brand, my company, Adam McChesney's name, right? It's got to be, we got to just move on from it. Because
Yeah.
again, we are losing that next opportunity
Yeah.
and keeping ourselves from getting there.
Yeah. Dude, that's so good. That right there is golden. It makes me wonder, as you see people become successful in building a personal brand. One, well, let's just start here. What are the key characteristics that somebody that comes to you for coaching or comes to builders of authority, do they possess early on that makes them typically more successful than others at building a personal brand?
I think the willingness to put themselves out there, the good, the bad, the ugly, and not try to like perfect the system,
Hmm.
right? So like the people that come to me, and I deal with this all the time, so it's not a knock against anything, but they're like, well, I'm worried about what so and so is going to say, or I need to like make sure that like every single post is blocked from this person, and well, and then they ask 1,000 questions,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, okay, hey, like I read a couple of posts and then I made my first post, and then I never looked back since because I just was told to post twice a day every single day.
Hmm.
And I've done that for the better half of well, the most part of the last 5 years. So I just like heard the information, went and implemented it. So I
Yeah.
didn't overanalyze it.
Yeah.
And then I think from there is like everyone wants it to be perfect, and they may start it and start to post and build their personal brand, but something between days like 30 and 90 like hits them back down where it's like,
Hmm.
hey, this isn't perfect yet. Like stop posting, stop building your personal brand. And then they listen to that like inner voice
Yeah.
that keeps them from continuing on the path. So I would say like those are like the two biggest things that I see consistently that hold people back.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but it brings up another question, which I see frequently, especially in the circles that you and I run in right now, which is the topic of AI.
Mm.
And, there's a ton of people that I think take what you just said and they're like, hey, I'm just going to automate this process and then I'm going to ignore it, right? Like I could
Mhm.
set up a bot that can do all these things for me. I can set up an NAN model that's going to go through and just, post automatically several times a day and grab stats and all that stuff. What's your opinion on that? Like, where do you see that kind of fitting in? I feel like I know, but I'd love to take a deeper dive in that with you just because you are so deep in personal branding.
Yeah, well, I think like all of this stuff, whether it's a specific tool or if it's AI or if it's some new technology, right? That or even a new social media platform, right? I think all of those things are only as good as the information that's put in and the consistency at which it evolutionalizes
Hmm.
and the algorithm behind all those different things. So whether it's ChatGPT or a new social media channel or a new tech that makes things more efficiently, none of this stuff is bulletproof. And that's where people go wrong is they buy the new thing, they get the new camera, they get the new chat GPT, they get all this stuff, and they're like, oh, I'm assuming it's gonna just freaking come out, guns blazing, and work
Yeah.
to the umpteenth degree. And it's not. And so the people that actually invest time, energy, money, and resources into building out and investing into the thing are actually the ones that are going to be light years ahead. Whereas the people that just buy it and expect it to do the thing are the ones that are going to struggle and likely have already struggled
Hmm.
because everybody's using AI, everybody's using new technology and things like that. So I think it will only escalate here over the next couple of years.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm guilty of this. Like I like automation and robotics and stuff anyway, so I'm playing around with it on the background and I'm not going to show you kind of my setup here because I bought a new camera and I bought a microphone and some fancy
Yeah.
lights at them, but they do make a difference, but it is how you implement them. But I think, the one thing that like I'm always curious about because you in particular, and I mean this as a sincere compliment, you're a different personality than you were the last time we spoke, probably about a year ago.
Yeah.
You've got a different aura on you, you're more determined, you're more confident, and I think a lot of that is one, you've had success in business and you've had to grow it and go through those hard times, but two, it is the personal brand aspect. And so I would love for you to share you personally what you experienced in building these transformational, not skill sets, but internal personal qualities that come along with a personal brand. Because things like communication, articulation, creative thinking, like you said, being able to take something really quickly that's happened to you and turn it into a post that, ends up being more meaningful and having a ripple effect down the line. What are some of those things that you've discovered about yourself that make it so a personal brand, no matter where you're at in life, can help you with just your internal situation?
I mean, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing to like answer your first kind of question of like, hey, you sound different. There's something different about you. And I think that comes from the confidence that I've built up after literally having to start over at zero and go back and get, and we're still not there, but go back and get what I lost.
Yeah.
So, like, getting kicked in the gut, in the nuts, whatever, and then like losing everything when your wife isn't going back to work, when you have like $10,000 of monthly overhead, an executive assistant,
Mhm.
you're trying to show up for your community that you just built 90 days ago. You have a 6 month old. You don't have medical benefits right now because you got screwed over, and you lost everything. And then you have to go through a 6 to 7 month lawsuit and try to get something out of it that you were owed, right? And so a lot, and I didn't realize this until like the last couple of weeks
Mhm.
because we've grown so quickly and it's been like just build, 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 build. And we're hiring new team members, bringing on new clients, all this stuff. And I'm like, man, 6 months ago, like literally 6 months ago, last Friday, we just made the relaunch announcement.
Mhm.
Like a year ago to this date, almost like I mean, we had very little money into the business bank account.
Mhm.
And I didn't have a lot of the stuff that I have from an infrastructure standpoint inside of the business. So I think I proved to myself, which is kind of really separate from the personal brand, although as a part of it, like I proved to myself that I could literally lose everything, get screwed over, and go rebuild it back quicker, better, faster, more stronger, more efficiently. And that was me.
Mhm.
Like, yes, I have an amazing team and I have all that stuff, but like nobody asked me to go rebuild it and do it all. Like I
Yep.
could have just went and got a job, figured out 1,500 other things to do differently, but like I did that.
Mhm.
So that is a part of my personal brand, but it's more of like I proved to myself that this was possible and that like this is who I am. So
Yep.
that's where the confidence comes in.
Yeah.
To be like, I'm not like, and again, like I've learned a lot of hard lessons recently where it's like tough conversations with team members, tough conversations with friends and family, tough conversations with clients, right? Where it's just like, hey, like I understand you've never had a marketing agency tell you before, like, we don't want your money anymore. And I know you're like paying us a bunch of money, but like I also don't enjoy all of the random Slack messages and emails and the phone
Yep.
calls and the stuff because you are trying to micromanage us, and that's not what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm good.
I love that, dude. That's such an incredible story, and it makes me laugh because, again, just using my wife as the example, I always share with her. It's like I get, these prominent figures, love or hate Trump, love or hate Elon. Like at some point, I've just learned to respect them more. Whether you like them or not is irrelevant. But it's like you get this mentality where you go through life, you have these difficult conversations. Half the world hates you, right? No matter what you do, you're in the wrong somehow. And at the end of the day, you're like, hey, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm making
Yep.
decisions. I have the confidence. I have the self-belief. I can make this happen. And it is you. Like you are the driver. Like you're the driver of your brand and your organization. You have people helping you, but you are that visionary that people are looking towards to bring them along for the ride. And that's why I was asking the question because I feel like a lot of, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love your thoughts on this, but I feel like personal brand is the external aspects of the internal characteristics you've built for yourself. And going back to what we were talking about in like part of the earlier conversation, things like getting over the hate, right? Just posting. Being aware, looking for a lesson that you can then turn into share to somebody else, right? On, let's just say, Facebook or social media or whatever, right? But like you're developing these very small characteristics internally that ultimately manifest themselves in this personal brand over time, but it just doesn't happen overnight. You have to have this perseverance and consistency to be able to develop that over time. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I think, I was on our mastermind call, so we relaunched kind of like a 6-month roadmap where we're going back to like foundational stuff. We did this last week, and the first call was like brand identity. Who is your ideal client? Who are you as the individual? What are your core values? Like all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And if they're, a lot of people were like, well, I have this for my personal brand, and then I have this for the business, and then I have multiple businesses and all these other things. And I'm not to say like here to say like, hey, you have to have the same core values in every different aspect. But I said like if at the core of who you are doesn't fit into the mold of all of those different things, you're probably in a business
Mhm.
or sometimes multiple businesses that you don't absolutely love doing that every single day.
Mhm.
And so that's like a hard reality for people, right? Where they're like, oh my gosh, my personal brand is me. And a lot of times people will try to be someone they're not,
Yeah.
or they'll try to like hide who they are, right? So maybe they like are showing up as themselves, but they're like, oh my gosh, there's this. If everybody else found out all this other stuff, and when people do, like it's going to blow up, it usually ends up coming to the surface.
Yep. Of
So I
course.
think like good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, like you have to own that and it will help be part of your story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's something about, and maybe this is it, maybe having a personal brand leads to true authenticity. Because like you
Mm,
said, that's the only way you're going to be really successful. And at the end of the day, you're only comfortable when you are truly authentic in whatever you're doing. It's like when you're telling clients that are paying you a lot of money, hey, this isn't fun. You
yeah.
made a decision. I really enjoy what I do. This is me, but like this relationship isn't going to work, right? Nothing
Yeah.
against you, but you can go find another marketing company who will take your money, but we
Yeah.
have certain values, we have realistic expectations around here, but that comes from being authentic. Those difficult conversations aren't really difficult. They're just conversations because you're not taking it personally. You're like, hey, this just doesn't match for me. This is just who I am. This is what we stand for, and it's just not a good fit. And that's okay, but it takes a lot of people a very long time to get there, if they get there at all.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, 100%. It's a journey. And it's not something that obviously happens overnight, but like the quicker you can evolutionize towards that like higher place you're trying to take this thing,
Hmm.
uh I think it becomes easier because you have this roadmap of like, oh hey, I'm going and I'm doing this. And on the other side of this is that freedom, flexibility, whatever, to be able to go do the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Adam, this has been awesome, dude. I always learn so much for you. So, one, where can people find you? How do they get in touch with you? And then two, because at Habitual Growth, one of the things that we want to be known for and we really try to get out there is getting people started, just moving in the right direction, taking action. So, after you share where people can find you, how they can get in contact with you, what are, two or three small things that people can take today from this conversation and implement in their own lives?
Yeah, so a couple different places, adammcchesney.com. It's my personal website. Go fill out some information there. We also have buildauthority.co. That talks a little bit more about our mastermind group coaching, all that good stuff. And then we have a free Facebook group called Builders of Authority. Just type that into the search bar. You should be able to find that link up there. We post daily content and do some trainings and things like that in there as well. As far as a couple things to kind of like leave the audience with as far as personal branding specific stuff, I think the biggest two things that I will leave you with is one, literally just get started. So again, we talked like, hey, what are the characteristics of the people that do really well with this, and then the ones that not so well, like overthinking and overanalyzing
Mhm.
has to be at the top of the list. So literally just go get started. It's not going to look pretty, it's not going to be perfect, but you have to get started in order to get somewhere where you're not right now.
Yeah.
And then two is building consistency and discipline, whether it's with this or anything else, is the true key to having more confidence in being successful in life.
Yeah.
So I don't care whether it's the personal branding or working out or eating healthy or doing anything, right? Consistency and discipline unlocks the freedom to be able to go see what you're capable of.
Amazing. I love them both. That's exactly what Habitual Growth stands for. And so if anybody's listening and you have questions about either of those, go find Adam at the places and the spaces he mentioned, or find me at habitualgrowth.com. Adam, we are a community dedicated to growing people's lives one day, one action, and one thought at a time. And the big part of this is learning from others. So because of this, we've created a free Habitual Growth Facebook community where you can find interviews, additional resources, bonus content, and so much more support to help you along the way in your growth transformation. And the best part is it's all absolutely free at no cost to you. So if you're somebody who's wanting to make a change in your life, head over to the app or the Play Store and download the Habitual Growth app now for your free trial. It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, a business owner, you work for somebody else, or you're just determined to make changes in your own life. These principles and this process work for everybody. For more information about Habitual Growth or any questions we can answer for you, shoot us an email at info@habitualgrowth.com. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the next video, and until then, keep inspiring others to do more.